What if I told you that laziness, well, that it doesn't actually exist? Seriously, what if it's a myth, a lie we've all been told that's causing this massive, hidden epidemic of burnout? Okay, let's get into it.
To really understand this, we've got to start with a story. This is Michael, a bartender from Chicago, and he says something that I think hits home for a lot of us. My entire life has been burnout. Wow.
So what does that kind of burnout even look like? Well, for Michael, it looked like this number, 380. That is the number of hours he worked in one single month. Now, to put that in perspective, a typical 40-hour work week is about 160 hours a month. He more than doubled it.
And the price he paid for that hustle, it wasn't just being tired. The physical toll became, well, horrifyingly real. The stress got so bad he started vomiting blood. I mean, this isn't just about feeling exhausted. This is a work culture that is literally physically destroying people.
Michael's story, as intense as it is really just a glimpse into a much, much bigger problem. He's not an outlier here. He's a data point in what we can only call the burnout epidemic.
So who feels this way? Well, it's the person who's working constant overtime because they're afraid not to. It's anyone who feels that pressure to be available 24/7, not just for their boss, but for friends and family too. It's that person cramming every single moment with something, optimizing their bus ride with a new language app. And, the one thing that connects all of these, it's tying your self-worth directly to how productive you are.
And that right there brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. It's time to pull back the curtain and unmask a concept that secretly runs so many of our lives, the laziness lie.
So what is the laziness lie? Well, it's this really deep-seated, totally false belief that our value as human beings is somehow connected to our output. It's that little voice in the back of your head that whispers that any moment you spend resting is a moral failure. Sound familiar?
This is all about reframing how we see things. We're taught to see someone's inaction and call it apathy. But what if it's really about their unmet needs? We see procrastination, but what's really happening is a ton of anxiety or fear. See the pattern? What our culture just dismisses as laziness is almost always a symptom of something so much deeper, like total burnout or other barriers we just can't see. Okay, I can hear you now. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about procrastination, right? I mean, come on, putting things off until the very last minute, isn't that just plain old laziness? Well, as it turns out, it is way more complicated than that. See, procrastination isn't really a choice. It's more like a trap, this destructive cycle. It usually starts with a fear of not being perfect, that paralyzing feeling that you have to get it exactly right. That fear creates anxiety, which makes you want to avoid the task, so what do? You find a distraction for a little bit of relief. But, of course, that just leads to that last-minute panic, work you're not proud of, and then this huge wave of guilt, which, you guessed it, just fuels the whole cycle for next.
And the damage from this whole mindset? It goes way beyond just feeling guilty or missing a deadline. So let's really dig into the hidden cost of hustle culture.
The biggest irony in all of this is that our obsession with being productive is actually deeply counterproductive. Being constantly on, always grinding, it doesn't just wear us out. It absolutely kills our creativity.
Think about Max's story. She was an aspiring writer, just full of ideas. But her super demanding job left her feeling, in her own words, cranky and brittle. That constant stress and exhaustion just completely drained her creative well. And the result? She hasn't been able to write a short story in years.
And the damage doesn't just stop with our own passions and hobbies. This pressure to perform, to always be working, to never ever stop, it bleeds into our personal lives and puts this incredible strain on our most important relationships.
Yep, one person's burnout can quickly turn into a full-blown family crisis. Let's look at Julie, a nonprofit director. Her job stress was through the roof, and at the same time, she's juggling parenting and her own anxiety. All that pressure at home ended up making her husband's undiagnosed bipolar disorder much worse, and it led to a serious mental health crisis. When she looked at their life, she had this awful realization. This just isn't sustainable.
So, if the problem is doing way too much, then the solution has to be a pretty radical shift in thinking. It's time we all started to embrace a really counterintuitive idea, the power of doing nothing. I absolutely love this quote from Don Draper in Mad Men. He's talking to a young creative who is totally stuck, and he tells her, just think about it deeply, then forget it. An idea will jump up in your face.
And you know what? What sounds like some slick TV writing is actually science.
That's right. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called incubation. Our brains don't just shut off when we stop focusing on a problem. When we rest, when we take a walk, when we're in the shower, our unconscious mind is back there, quietly connecting the dots. The big breakthrough happens when we finally give our minds the space to do that work.
So how do we actually do this? Well, it's about finding small ways to intentionally disengage. Savor a meal without scrolling on your phone. Find a moment of awe. Go look at the stars. Hey, even just taking a different route to work can shake up your brain's old patterns. It's all about creating these little pockets of rest that let real insight bubble up.
And all of this, fighting burnout, embracing rest, unlearning the laziness lie, it all leads to one fundamental, totally life-altering conclusion. It's a truth we need to repeat until we finally believe it. You are not your job.
Just think about it. When you meet someone new, what is one of the very first questions you ask? So, what do? Right? We introduce people, we categorize them based on the work they do. Our culture has completely fused our identity with our job title.
And look, if you take just one thing away from all of this today, please let it be this. Your achievements are not your worth. Your value as a human being is inherent. It is not measured by promotions or checked off to-do lists or a jam-packed calendar. You are worthy simply because you exist. Period.
And so, I'll just leave you with this final thought to ponder. What would you do differently? What would you create or learn or maybe just allow yourself to be if you truly, deep down, believed that you were enough? Right now, just as you are.